brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
He's out in Geneva, a whole new staff I never met, never knew. And they saw value in him, the same value that me and my staff saw in him. And so I just appreciate the fact that D is able to take what he learned in Shaker Heights, go out to Spire, and do the exact same thing he's doing in Shaker Heights that he's doing in Spire. I'm very proud of that.
Danny Young has been the head boys basketball coach at Shaker Heights High School since 2009, after coaching under Hall of Fame coach Bob Wonson in various roles since 1993. Young has won over 200 games as the leader of the Raiders program and taken the team to 6 regional tournaments in the state of Ohio. His son Daniel is currently playing a post-grad year of basketball at Spire in Geneva, Ohio. Daniel was coached by his father during his 4-year high school career at Shaker Heights High School. Daniel will start his collegiate basketball career next fall at Cleveland State University. Write down some of the great insights you'll pick up as you listen to this episode with father and son, coach and player, Danny and Daniel Young. Hey, Hoopheads, I wanted to take a minute to shout out our partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball. Their Dr. Dish shooting machines are undoubtedly the most advanced and user-friendly machines on the market. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Visit drdishbasketball.com for details. That's a great deal, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
Hi, this is Robbie Lehman, Content Manager at Fast Model Sports, and you're listening to the Hoopheads podcast.
Prepare like the pros with the all-new Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Fast Draw has been the #1 play diagramming software for coaches for years. You'll quickly see why Fast Model Sports has the most compelling and intuitive basketball software out there. For a limited time, Fast Model is offering Hoopheads listeners 15% off Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Just use the code HHP15 at checkout to grab your discount, and you'll be on your way to more efficient game prep and improved communication with your team. Fast Model also has new coaching content every week on its blog, plus play and drill diagrams on its Playbank. Check out the links in the show notes for more. Fast Model Sports is the best in basketball. Write down some of the great insights you'll pick up as you listen to this episode with father and son, coach and player, Danny and Daniel Young. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight. And we are pleased to welcome back to the Hoopheads podcast, Danny Young, the head boys basketball coach at Shaker Heights High School, and welcoming to the podcast his son, Daniel Young, who is currently playing a post-grad year of basketball at Spire Institute in Geneva, Ohio. Guys, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Excited to have you guys on. Looking forward to diving into the dynamics of the father-son relationship and working your way through the basketball system and eventually ending up at Spire and just how that all went and what you guys can share with us to be able to help our audience of both coaches and players. We know there's a lot of coaches out there that end up coaching their own kids. And so I think there's going to be a lot of things that we can touch on. And Daniel, obviously, you're going to be able to share a lot of things that you've gone through that hopefully players out there who might be listening can benefit from. So let's start with you, Danny. Just give us a quick update on where you're at, what you're doing, and then where Daniel's at, and then we'll jump in from there.
Okay. Once again, thank you for having us on your podcast. The first time was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to tonight. Danny Young, head coach at Shaker Heights High School. This is year 31 for me, working in the city of Shaker Heights. This is year 14 as the head basketball coach at Shaker Heights High School. I served as assistant to Bob Wonson for 17 years, but now this is my 14th year as a head coach. I am currently a school counselor at the high school, which I am enjoying that job tremendously. I'm in the building helping kids, and I get to see my high school boys a lot, interact with them, and it was pretty cool. You know, I was a counselor when Daniel was there his last year, his junior year and sophomore year and freshman year. I was a principal at Woodbury, but his last 2, I was a school counselor, which is kind of cool to kind of lock in on the basketball a little bit and see some of his dreams come true in terms of helping us win a league championship his senior year. So where Daniel is now, once he left Shaker Heights High School, he was blessed to get a full scholarship to Spire Academy, which has been a great experience.
All right, so let's go back in time. Daniel, what do you remember about some of your first interactions with the game? What do you remember about your dad coaching some of his teams? Just go back to some of your earliest memories of the game of basketball.
I remember when I was little, just watching Terry Rozier play and Issa play. I would just always go to their practices when I was little and just see how hard they went and how serious they took it. So I just looked up to them and to play basketball. And my dad, he really had me into it. We always watch basketball games and stuff like that. And he'd take me to the gym to get me better because when I was younger, I wasn't really good. I wasn't really that skilled. I was really fast, but I didn't have the IQ yet and just all the skill sets to become a good basketball player. So it just went over time. We just kept working out, and eventually it all clicked around middle school, and we built on from that. So I would say
I know last time when we talked to your dad, he talked a lot about how at a certain point you guys made a decision to go and travel a little bit for AAU basketball, maybe to find you a little bit better team to play on, a little bit more competition to play against. Yep. What do you remember about your first AAU experiences?
I'll say it was a challenge because I wasn't the best player. I came off the bench, so it was my first time playing organized basketball. It was just an adjustment. It was kind of a rough time for a little bit, but I had fun still. And then just over time, just playing with different players and players that were better than me, I kept playing with them and I got better as time moved on. And then eventually my dad started his own AAU team. It was with All Ohio Red at the time, and we were called All Ohio Northeast, so he had his own team. And he built it around me so I could gain my confidence and just become a better basketball player. And I would say that definitely changed my trajectory of being a basketball player because that helped me gain my confidence and just go out there and just have fun and not think about stuff. Because when you're thinking about stuff, that's when you're not really playing well. So ever since that happened, I haven't been thinking about anything, and it all clicked for me when that happened.
Danny, what do you remember about that time and that decision and just kind of how you took him through the AAU process?
Like you said early on, he was on a Brad Downs, had an AAU team that I put him with. And like he said, he wasn't the best at all. But what I always knew was it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I remember actually what he did. I remember I went to go watch him one tournament. I was like, boy, I mean, you saw the talent, but like he said, he was struggling. And then I had to go to practice. So I was in the car with him after this one particular game. But then my wife, Kenya, called me and said, you won't believe what your son just asked me to do. He asked me to take him to the gym because he wanted to get better. And my wife played high school basketball, too, at Central Howard. So she has a little bit of know-how to kind of get him better. So they went to the gym. And then that process of getting better clicked. And then I really didn't set out to coach him in AAU because I knew maybe one day I might coach him in high school. But I had a friend down in Cincinnati named Paul McMillan who said, man, the best thing you could do, man, is kind of early on kind of get an AAU team, kind of build it around him. You know, you don't want the daddy ball thing, but kind of allow him to kind of blossom and make mistakes and kind of become that alpha, you know, not wanting to be the second, third, fourth fiddle, but learn how to be the alpha because once he gets with other alphas, he can still be successful because he understands what it takes to be the best and play with the best. So then, like Daniel just said, I started All Ohio Northeast with the help of Jerry Watson down in Columbus. He allowed me to kind of run this area up here, and we started a AAU program, and I just started picking great parents and great kids. So Daniel had a lot of friends in the local suburbs, and so I went and grabbed, you know, a couple kids from Strongsville, a kid from Hudson, a kid from Brecksville, kids from Cleveland, kids from Akron. And before you know it, we had built that team up really strong. And then we transitioned to another organization, OBC. And then we plucked a couple more kids. Matter of fact, we got the kid from St. V, Raymar Pryor, who will be teammates with D will be teammates with him. He's up there right now at Cleveland State. And then we got Elmore James, who's at Ohio University. We got Tyler Ganley. We got the kid from Rutgers, Antoine Woolfolk. We had Jordan Huff, Aiden Lau from Hudson. He's a running back for, I think, the Naval Academy or Air Force, one of those big-time Division I football schools. And then before you know it, man, the team just developed into, we got ranked like 13th best team in the country by Coast to Coast Hoops. When they hit 8th grade, we traveled out to Vegas and we knocked off some big-time teams. It was just a long process of trying to make that team better and better and better. And then through the process, Daniel and all the kids got better, because what I set out to do for Daniel and the other kids, I told their parents we have 2 goals. First goal is we want to become nationally known and recognized across the country, which we accomplished that. We got ranked in the nation in 8th grade. The second goal was I want every single player that plays for me to either start JV or start varsity or play varsity. And I'm happy to say every single kid that played on that 8th grade team started varsity, did well, and they're all in college right now, either at the Division I level or Division II level.
How did you think about that from a coach's perspective in terms of balancing out the needs of Daniel? And obviously you're not only the coach, but you're his father and you're invested in his success, just like you were invested in the success of those other kids. But how'd you go about creating the best possible environment to develop your roster 1 through 9 or 10 or however many kids you had on there?
Well, I knew Daniel would be a combo guard, and he's still that. Like, if you go watch Spire play, sometimes he's on the ball, sometimes he's off the ball. I never developed or raised him to be ball dominant. You know, I wanted him to be able to, when you get into the mix and I'm not coaching you and you're with 4 other dogs or 4 other kids that are really, really good, you just got to figure it out and be able to, you know, contribute to wins. And I'm watching him do that now with Spire. Like, every single kid in that team is good. Every single kid on that team was their best player in high school. But Daniel was still able to be one of the top guys. For a long time, he was one of the leading scorers on the team. He's averaging 25 and 4, I believe. So I think our process worked starting from AAU through middle school and then obviously through high school. But what we did to make sure he could flourish in that environment, like even after AAU practices, he and I had to go do something extra. You know what I mean? 'Cause I always wanted him to have that advantage. And we used to always talk about, do you want to be extra? Do you want to be even, or do you want to be empty? Even means, okay, after AAU practice, you go home, we do nothing. Extra player is we go to AAU practice and we got to do an hour or hour and a half above afterwards. And so I kind of cultivated that inside of his inner being and his mind. And that followed him all the way from middle school to high school.
Daniel, what do you remember about when that extra mentality kicked in for you? Was that something that you started to develop in elementary school and middle school? When did you start to feel like, hey, I've got to really put in this extra time? Obviously, you're having conversations with your dad as you're going through and you're riding to and from games and practices. But when do you remember that kicking in? Was there a moment, or was it just more of a gradual process?
I would say it was more of a gradual process. Like, I would get extra shots up in middle school and stuff like that. I would say it really hit probably going into freshman year, because I really had a good start to my freshman year. My first ever varsity game, I had 27 points. So I was putting a lot of work in the summer going into that freshman year, because a lot of people thought I was only playing varsity because my dad was a coach. But in all honesty, I was putting in the work. He had us playing that summer before, the past summer. When we were in 7th grade, he had us playing in high school divisions and like our AU fall leagues and stuff. So we would play like 12th graders while we were in 7th grade. He was doing that for us so we could get ready to play like right out the gate as freshmen when we got to high school. So I'll say that also helped us as well. But yeah, it was a gradual process, and it really clicked over that summer going into my freshman year.
What did your workouts look like, let's say, as you were heading into your high school? So let's talk about freshman, sophomore year in the summer. What were some of the things that you were working on, and what did you go about doing as you were actually putting together those workouts? Because when you think about the way that you grew up and have an opportunity to have your dad as a high school coach who's extremely knowledgeable about the game, but then you also have ways to be able to see on YouTube, and you can watch players, and you can model your game and take things. Just what did you do as a player, outside of, again, your team stuff, but what were you doing individually when you got in the gym? What did that look like?
It was a lot of reps, a lot of shots, like a lot of threes, because I knew we had a guard coming in, Shema, so we would be playing off each other. So just a lot of threes and a lot of ball handling, because we had a really good team going into my freshman year. So I wanted to just be able to affect the game in other ways. So I just mainly focused on my freshman year, just working on my three-pointers. So I was really like a standstill shooter my freshman year. And then each year I would add something into my bag to become a better player. So my sophomore year, I was working on being more of a point guard, being able to bring the ball up more and more confidently. Because my freshman year, I would say I was confident, but I wasn't really confident in my handle, like bringing the ball up, because everyone was bigger and stronger than me at the time. But as my sophomore year, I would say near the end of my freshman year, I gained more confidence because the more games I played, I was used to it. But going into my sophomore year, I would say it really changed. I felt like a really different player from what I was my freshman year. And then my junior year, I would say I added working on shooting off the dribble more and step backs. I was watching James Harden, which you really shouldn't watch him, but I was
just don't watch him off the ball.
Yeah, don't watch him off the ball. But
don't ask Mike for his opinion on James Harden. And you're bringing up the wrong guy right now.
Hey, when he's got the ball in a non-playoff game, watch him all you want. Just don't watch him in a playoff game, and don't watch him when he doesn't have the ball. That's all. I'll leave it there.
Exactly. So I was working on a step back, so I just kept watching film on that, and I finally got it down. So that was like a really consistent move that I used my junior year. And I would say, like, that really helped me to shoot tougher shots, because my junior year, they played me way differently. So I had to be able to make tougher shots because I wouldn't get the ball wide open as much. So then my senior year, it was just the same, just reps and form, just doing the same thing over and over. You have to be consistent with what you do. So it was really that. For real, I would say my senior year was a lot better because I was the senior, so the confidence was really high. So I would say just gradually working, same thing over and over.
Yeah, I want to come back to that transition sort of from being a freshman to being a senior. We'll come back to that in a second. Danny, what was your role doing during these summer workouts? How much were you on the floor with Daniel, working with him, working him out, having discussions about, hey, this is what you should be working on, versus just kind of letting him figure things out on his own?
No, it was very strategic in terms of getting him ready. And one thing that I liked, he never ducked the work. He never ran from the work. I entrusted him only to a few guys. I didn't put him in front of a lot of people, but there were a few people I put him in front of. And some things that they mentioned, they were able to push him really hard, and he just wouldn't quit. It was a couple of times I was sitting there watching him work out, and he was getting pushed to a point where I wanted to say, okay, that's enough. But he would not stop. And that was headed into his freshman year. So when he was able to go into the Bookdale game playing against Chris Livingston, who is now at Kentucky, and he was the leading scorer of that game. He outplayed Chris in that game, but Chris is a phenomenal player, McDonald's All-American, so it's not about that. But no one knew who Daniel was in that game, but they knew who he was after that game. And I knew as a freshman, the art of shooting the ball would be a big thing for him. And a lot of kids try to do a little bit too much in high school. But what I taught D was, hey, if you can catch the ball and make stand-still threes, you will be effective in high school. And then we built off of that. And then when I was in the gym with him, it was a routine of probably 200 to 300 made threes. We also worked on the midi, but he really didn't he didn't shoot the midi that much as a freshman. And then I wanted him to have a tight handle to kind of get by and get to his spots. And as he said, early on at freshman year, he was confident. But as the season progressed, I saw him get a little more comfortable with that ball in his hand. And then sophomore year, we kept adding the same things. And then I would say around sophomore, junior year, he really began attacking the basket like no care for hurt, harm, or danger to his body. And I don't know where that came from. He and I talk about today, and I don't know if he can even answer this question for you, but there were games where, he would go to the free throw line 14 times, 15 times, 17 times, 20 times. In the regional final game, when they got shut down when he was a sophomore, he scored the bulk of his points from the foul line. I think he was 16 for 18 from the foul line. Made a couple threes, made a couple layups, but he went to the foul line against a juggernaut team in Kim McKinley. And I don't know where that came from, but I'm glad he had it because it was just another added piece to his bag or his game where, okay, he got the three ball, he can get to the rim, he can finish with contact, against contact, get the free throw line, and then he added the mid-range shot senior year a little bit better because, like you said, and I've never seen this before in my life, and I've coached some great players in Shaker Heights, but I saw a team, and I won't call the team's name, his senior year, and they said, we want to beat them so bad that we're not going to let them beat us. They sent 3 guys at him. Every ball screen play that ran, not 2 where they typically blitz you with 2. They sent 2 and the right corner guy, and they threw 3 guys at him. And that was when Coach Gates was at the game. And one thing that I appreciated, Danny didn't force the shots. And I tell this story to my guys now. He gave the ball up to his teammate, Kellen Smith, who was a big-time player now for me. He did not force the ball. And I remember Coach Gates afterwards told him, yeah, you didn't score your typical 27. He was averaging 27 at the time. I think he had like maybe 18, 16, something like that. I don't remember how many he ended up with. But he didn't force the ball in terms of going against 3 guys. He would give it up to his teammates. And now I'm seeing that transition right in the Spire. He doesn't force bad shots. He gets his, but he also gets his teammates involved. So I'm seeing things come together for him from his high school experience.
Yeah, that's a mentality and maturity thing, right?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the conversations that you guys had heading into Daniel's freshman year. So I don't know who of you wants to take it first, but maybe Daniel, you take the question first. Is what do you remember about what you talked with your dad in terms of, hey, you're going to be a varsity player and there's going to be a lot of people, and you mentioned it earlier, that are going to say the only reason why you're on this team is because, hey, your dad's the coach. And obviously there's a difference between, you've had guys who have been in the program for 3 years who were seniors. Now all of a sudden here comes this freshman who's the coach's son. What do you remember about the conversations that you had during that time? Daniel, why don't you take that first?
I remember him telling me he's going to hold me to a higher standard. So he said he's going to be hard on me in practice and in games. He was probably a little bit too hard, that to the point where all the other players were saying they get it. He's good, so you didn't have to do it anymore. So I would say that's what he was telling me. So before I became a freshman, he was telling me he was always going to be hard on me and treat me way different than the other players to set the tone for the season.
Danny, what'd that look like on your end?
He's right. I was too hard. A couple of times I think I broke him. I wouldn't say broken, but I moved his emotions a couple of times in practice, and I was doing it on purpose to show the guys that he's not being favored. And so I remember some of the top guys, Dakota Cochran, who's at Central Michigan playing football, Shema, Dante, who's a professional fighter, Nick Ferguson, all the other guys that he was playing with, they came to me during practice and they said, Coach, you don't have to do that. Stop. Stop, Coach. We see what you're doing. We know what you're doing. He's good, Coach. He can play. He can hoop. We know why he's playing. He's not playing because you're the coach. Don't do that no more. Then my assistant, Ron Burnett, he would call me at night and practice. Said, Dan, I'm going to tell you, you may not listen to me. He's an older gentleman. He's like, I think Ron is like 80 right now. He called and said, Danny, you're going to hurt that boy. You're going to hurt him. Stop doing that. The boy is good. He works hard. He can play. Forget what the people say. They're going to talk regardless. And so I backed off a little bit, just a little bit. I didn't back off too much, but I backed off. I backed off a little bit because I was a little too hard that freshman year.
Daniel, from your perspective, what was let's start with the positive. What was the best part of playing for your dad as a high school player?
I would say just the freedom we all had. He had us as a team. Just like he didn't hold anyone back. He just let them play their game, play free. Like I would say that's probably the best coach to play for in high school, just to have fun. Like you see these other schools, it's like you have to have a lot of progressions before you take a shot. Like any of us could take a shot. Like if the shot we like, he wouldn't be mad. Like as long as we played defense and went hard, he was happy with the results. So I would say that, and then I would also say our practices, they were always fun. Like it was always competitive. He made it competitive. Like we were all like all the players in school, we were always talking about practices. Like we were always just looking forward to going to practice. So I'll just say the preparation before the games, that was always fun as well, and just being around our team. I would say our sophomore year as well, when he told us no outside influences. Like don't let anyone outside our camp infiltrate it. Like parents, don't listen to parents. Like you should be taking this shot, or you should be doing this. You should be starting. Like he had us all as a family, and that's why if COVID never happened, I feel like we would have won the state championship that year.
What makes a fun practice for you from a player perspective?
I would say our 5-on-5 doing our plays. Like we had score stop drill, so that was really competitive. So you would have to score and then get a stop on defense in order to get that bucket that you just had. So it was always very competitive, and I would say that was probably the best drill that we did all the time.
All right, Danny, what do you remember about that time and just thinking about the practices and how you set those up and just how you tried to maximize what Danny and the rest of that team could be?
Well, I am a practice guy. Even now, I really enjoy the process of seeing where they are in the preseason, where you have them in early in the season. And then as a coach, what can you do to constantly get them better? So I used to show them like these practice plans aren't just out of osmosis. I'm thinking about the games. I'm thinking about scrimmages. I'm thinking about what can we do as a staff to get you guys better. And I'm always trying to improve myself as a coach. I go to a lot of camps and clinics, and there's guys across Cleveland I respect and trust that I go scout, I watch and try to, borrow things. I always go to Columbus. If my team can't get me there, I go down to the Final Four, and I'm taking mental notes and copying things that I see these guys get to Columbus do. But it's just always trying to evolve, and everything that we do, I try to make it competitive. Like the one drill Danny mentioned is one of my favorite drills, score stop drill. Make it, take it with transition, where it's just not up and down, up and down. You have to run your play. If you score, you keep the ball. If you score, you keep the ball. If the defense gets it, you get the run. Try to get an early transition bucket. If not, you run a set. If you score or don't score going the other way, it's still other team's ball. So it's not just continuous up and down. You have to run a play. And then, like I said, it's called make it, take it with transition. But every drill that we did, I try to make it competitive. Even free throws. I got a drill called Ray Allen free throw shooting, where shoot to a basket. Ray Allen does this all the time. I got it from the actual Ray Allen. A switch is 2, a make is 1, a miss is -1. So he made free throws competitive. You lose, you got to run. So I just try to, that's what games are, because something that I believe when parents ask me what I look for, I got like 7 traits that I tell parents, in terms of what do you look for a coach when a kid makes varsity? And matter of fact, we just went to our whole program, watched the middle school play today at the high school, 7th, 8th grade play. And I saw a 7th grade kid. I met his family, and I told him how good I thought the kid would be. I said, but one thing that I value, who are you when you're down 10? Who are you when you're down 10? Anybody can be special and happy-go-lucky, you up 8, up 10. But who are you when you're down 10? I'll tell you one of my favorite moments for Daniel. And I knew he had I always knew he was tough because it's just how I raised him. But I knew he was tough when senior year at Cleveland Heights, and his whole team from Cleveland State was there. The whole staff was there. I don't think Coach Gates was there, but all the assistants were there. And like half the Cleveland State team sat behind our bench. And we're at Heights, and we're down, I think, 8-10.
No, we were down 20.
Yeah, you're right, Danny. We're down 20. So I ripped them a new one at half and said some things that kind of got their juices flowing. And then D just hit this switch because they were being rough with him. physical with him, talking trash in his face. I mean, it was just crazy. I'm getting on the refs. I'm kind of talking to J.R. Brimmer a little bit. Come on, Brimmer, it ain't got to be all like this. But Brimmer and I, we got mutual respect. We got a lot of love and respect for one another. And all of a sudden, D hit this switch, and he just put us on his back and went bananas in the game. And not only did he go bananas, he was able to also allow others to get theirs too. I think he had like 27, almost 30, but he helped other guys get off too. We had 3 or 4 guys with double figures, and we came back and won the game by 5, being down 20.
Daniel, where do you think that competitiveness comes from? Is that something that you just always remember having, or do you think that that was something that kind of was forged through the course of the experiences that you had in the game?
I feel like I always had it. I was always competitive. Even when I was younger, I would always go hard. Even when I played in the showcases, when they were talking about this was the best player, I always try to guard them. I didn't back down from anybody. So I say I always had it in me.
It's funny because I remember as a kid growing up and shooting free throws with my dad on the driveway, and he and I would shoot 100 and we'd see who could make more, and at the time I was probably, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. And just, if I would lose, I remember just being so mad at my dad and getting so angry at him. Like, I can't believe you beat me, Dad. We got to shoot another 100. And again, it's one of those things that it never, like, nobody ever said, hey, you got to be more competitive, or, hey, you've got to do, it just was something that it just was always there. And I think it's interesting that obviously as coaches, one of the things that we try to do is you want to develop and improve your team's competitiveness. But I do think that there's a different level of competitiveness that guys who just have it, it's completely obvious. I mean, I do think it's something that you can develop, but I think that there's a level of competitiveness that some guys just have naturally that other guys just never get to.
I agree. I agree with that.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the negative side of having your dad as your high school coach. Is there something that when you look back, you're like, man, that was a tough patch, or that was something that I didn't like about having my dad as a coach? Maybe it was even just one small moment. Does anything stick out for you, Daniel, in that respect? Not that I want you to throw your dad under the bus here, but
that's a good. Oh yeah, the car rides back home when we lost, or like when I did bad, I did terrible. Like he would like be on. You're not in the gym enough. You're not taking it serious. You don't want to be good. Do you want to work hard? Like it was just stuff like that. I would say, yeah, the car rides after the game, that was the worst thing, or a bad practice.
Yeah, that makes sense. Danny, what do you think about when you think about what he just said?
Yeah, but thank God for my wife. Thank God for Kenya. I tell you, because she would, okay, Danny, that's enough. And sometimes they would just go in the back in our house, in his room, and close me out. And they'll be back in that room for hours, and they would not let me in. And then every time he came out that room in the next game, he had a wonderful game. He had a great bounce back game. I remember at Menor, home Menor. It was a tough one for him. What year was that, D?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore year. He had to, and that's when Menor was really, really good. But I thought we had got better in the tournament, and the guys wanted to play him again. I think we split. Did we split with them that year, D, or did they get us twice?
We won at their. I think we won at their place, and then
we did. Yeah, right. So at our place, he had a rough patch. He didn't score as normal at that point. I think he was averaging about 18 a game, almost 20. He didn't play well. All of the kids played real well. If we had him playing well, we sweep them. We win both games.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
We lost both because we lost by 5 at their place.
That's true. So I would say that year, sophomore year, we lost twice to Menor. But the second time at their place, he played well. But at our place, he didn't play well. And I kind of felt like, dang, if my son would have played well, we win the game. And you're wondering what the guys are thinking, You wonder what the fans are thinking, because everybody else had a pretty good game. Like Dakota had a good game, Shemai had a good game, Dante had a good game, and D didn't have a good game. And he knew it. And that's the first time early in that season I saw him, his eyes got watery. He was kind of sad during the post-game talk. And so I'm ripping him all the way home. And then my wife took him and she took him in the back room And whatever she said to him, and she won't let me in there. She didn't tell me what they talked about. She said, I got him now. And they went in that room and talked. And then and from that point, I think he went on a tear. I think he went on a tear. His whole attitude changed. You know, he felt he let the team down. I think he cried back to his mom. She pumped him up. And then after that, man, he got it rolling again.
I think the most important thing, and this is what I've found with my son too, is I think that once they get to the point, and I think for everybody, it's different. I'm guessing that, you know, my son came to it later than your son, where they want it more than what you want it for them. I think you cross over that because initially, obviously, as a basketball guy, just like me, you kind of tend to give your kids more exposure to the game of basketball than to other things. And so eventually, I think once it becomes theirs, that's when you really got something. And then at the same time, I think you also realize that you sort of give up some control over what they do and how they do it. And you obviously had maybe a little bit more control because you're coaching him, but certainly the performance is in their hands at a certain point. And I think that's where sometimes that frustration as a parent, where maybe you're just saying, hey, you got to get more time in the gym, or, you know, you need to play better. I think that comes out, at least from my perspective. I know I get that way sometimes when you just feel like, man, we need you to play better. But ultimately they know, right? I mean, they know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I had to understand too is his journey is his journey. And I can't let other people impact his journey, because like I started thinking about all my years of coaching, I helped guide a lot of kids to college. I supported a lot of kids. I loved up on a lot of kids, and I'm still loving up on kids. Why can't I love up on mine and allow him to fail and make mistakes and figure it out? Why should he be penalized when I didn't penalize anyone else? And what I'll say, I didn't treat Daniel any differently than I treated any other superstar that I've had. Nobody else got treated any differently. They got the same freedom that Danny got. You know what I mean? So once I kind of understood that, I didn't care anymore. Well, really, it stopped bothering me, really. I got to be quite honest with you. It hit me kind of earlier. I would say it's freshman year, like the fourth or fifth game. That's when it kind of, it's always back in your mind. You're thinking about it.
Right.
But I stopped thinking about it that third game after Booktel, when he had the big opening night. And then 3 or 4 games later, we played our rival Garfield. And he had a career night. He had 35 points, 9 threes, and we won by 20 in front of a sellout crowd, media. Everyone's coming to see us lose, including his own classmates. Because he told me during the day, he saw me, he said, Dad, everyone's betting that we're going to lose. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, yeah, everybody's coming to me saying, Sonny's better, Michi's better, you're going to lose by 20. I mean, our own fans. So what that taught me too, that he got a little bit of, okay, all right, I'm going to show you, but I can tell you. Okay, you don't believe in me? All right. And he came out there and just went on a tear. And I'm not trying to, blow down anybody, but he outscored both those young men by himself. And we won by 20. So right there, I think the crowd looked and said, okay, all right, this kid can hoop. And then I didn't hear anything else about Daniel after that. Nothing else. Nothing else came my way. Nothing.
Yeah, when you can put it on the floor and play, that makes all the difference. That gets people quiet real fast.
Yeah, it quieted the crowd a lot.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Daniel, talk a little bit about the recruiting process and what that was like for you, just in terms of going through and making decisions and kind of what you looked for in a school that you were going to choose, and just tell us a little bit about the process.
I'll say it was a fun process. It was a lot of schools hit me up. They were just talking for real though. Like most of them, like they'd be like, "We're coming to see you. Just come to watch you play." Like my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, my AU season, I heard from a couple schools. I heard from Michigan. I would say like Valparaiso, Ohio. I had my first offer when we played in the district championship my freshman year, but we lost. Akron offered me. There was another guard on Euclid, Garvin Clark. He's at Akron currently. We were playing against him, and I played really good, but we lost by 1. But I really played really good that game, and after that game, the coach called my dad, the assistant coach, and they offered me. So I'll say my first offer that made me feel good, but I would say like it was a unique recruitment process, especially when COVID hit, because I didn't have a AAU season going into my my senior year, or was it junior year? Going into my junior year, so it was kind of hard because they couldn't come and watch me play. So I really didn't have that many looks after that. But going into my senior year, Cleveland State, they were looking at me, and then Coach Gates, he's a great recruiter. Like he made it feel like home as soon as even though it's really close to home, he just made it feel like that was the spot I wanted to be at as soon as I took a visit over there. He's a great coach, and it was just a fun process, especially on the visit, just meeting all the players and the whole coaching staff. It was just fun to be around them. I already felt like I was there for like 4 years already. So I'll say my process was pretty unique, especially because of COVID happening.
Yeah, the COVID piece of it obviously threw a whole wrench into everybody. It's kind of amazing when you look at just what this age bracket of kids has kind of had to go through. Obviously unprecedented, certainly in modern history, with the way that pandemic had an effect on sports and everything that was going on. I mean, it's kind of crazy that, you look at the extra year of eligibility, and then you look at the transfer portal, and you look at how much more I think difficult it is for high school kids to be able to really get an opportunity at the Division I level, just because, again, you have all these other different options for coaches and teams to be able to reload and restack their roster. The first training camp, Elite Skill Development and Performance Combine, will be held on the campus of Western Reserve Academy, just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, powered by Unleash Potential and the Hoopheads podcast. The camp is designed for boys rising to grades 6 through 9 and will take place June 29th through July 1st, 2023. An emphasis on improving individual skills in the context of a team environment will be the hallmark of the training camp. Mike Klinzing from Head Start Basketball and the Hoopheads podcast and Joe's Decision from Unleashed Potential will serve as the camp directors of this inaugural training camp. Campers can expect 3 days of hard work, intense skill instruction, and learning how to be a great teammate on and off the court at the training camp. Players will participate in 10 elite skill development sessions led by some of the best coaches from across the country. Visit headstartbasketball.com to get registered. Danny, what was your role in terms of guiding Daniel in the decision-making process, and what were some of the things that you talked to him about?
I just talked to him about work hard, and offers and opportunities will come. We're in that generation where when Danny was coming up as a freshman, everybody had to have an offer as a freshman. And if you didn't have an offer as a freshman, you weren't good. You know what I mean? And so I remember he and I having some conversations. He saw some guards that he really, did well against. They're getting offers. He's not. I remember that we had a couple of conversations about that. I said, don't worry about that. Your opportunity will come. Just make sure you keep working, work. And he did. I think COVID definitely hurt him, because if you think about his resume, and I tell kids this right now about his resume, back-to-back LEL Player of the Year, voted upon by the coaches. I didn't even get a vote in that. The other coaches in the league voted. 2-time All-State, second-team All-State. He left Shaker as the second leading, all-time scorer behind Malcolm Sims. Greater Cleveland. What was that award, Danny, you got at Cleveland? What was it called? He was a finalist with the football quarterback at Medina. What was that award called?
Player of the Year, or Athlete of the Year. No, Athlete of the Year.
Yeah, the Athlete of the Year, Cleveland. So I can't remember the actual name of it. But anyway, he had a great resume. And he probably had maybe 3 offers. You know what I mean? And that's because of that pandemic. And I'm looking at some other past athletes. Danny's resume was very comparable to a lot of other stars. But I just think it's that climate. So I talked to some guys at around Nike, and they just said, whatever you get, if it's a good fit and you feel comfortable, your son feels comfortable, take it, because it's a rough market out here. And I'm still seeing that. I'm seeing kids I'm looking at, I'm admiring, and I love their game. I'm thinking, man, this kid is good. And you talk to them, they say, Coach, I have nothing. I mean, I'm talking about really, really good players. It's just a tough market. So when Coach Gates started recruiting him, I mean, he like Danny said, he's masterful. He is masterful in terms of recruiting. I mean, like he started with me a little bit. Like he'll call me at weird hours. Like my wife and I are coming back in from going out to dinner. He'll call me like 11 o'clock. Like, what you doing, man? What's going on? How you doing? How's that son of yours? Man, I see you playing well. I'm just checking in, Coach. How you doing? You know what I mean? He said, tell the young killer I'm gonna call him. You know, and he did that like 3 or 4 times, just different times. And then the one time he did it, it was an early morning. It was like 8:30, I think. And I think I might have missed the call first time. And I woke up and I saw the phone and said, Coach Gates. I'm like, oh, shoot, how did I miss this call? And thank God he called back like 30 minutes later. He called back and he said, what you doing, man? I said, nothing. He said, get your son up here right now. We're about to practice. I want to see him. And so I said, D, get up. We're going to go to Cleveland State. It was just unannounced. And so we got up. We got our clothes on. We drive to Cleveland State. And then he lets us feel special. He allowed us to pull in like the tunnel, you know, where, you know, like the big time guys go, you know, where he parks inside the arena. So he opened the garage up, pulled the car in, let it down. We walk in, we're talking, chopping it up. We watch him practice. You know, it's a great practice. And then all of a sudden he takes it in the back of the office and he says, hey man, I love you. Hey, let's get this done. But I already know you can't do it because mama ain't here. I'm like, he said, I know you can't make a decision because mama not with me. I said, no, you're right. We can't make a decision.
He's no dummy.
He's no dummy. He said, that's all right. I'll get mama next. He said, but here's my vision for him. I love him, but with this pandemic, I don't know who's coming back, who's not. Let's ship him off to prep school and don't look at that as a negative. So for me, I lit up inside, but I didn't quite know what Daniel was thinking. I already knew what it was because Terry Rozier did that. Rozier did it and Rozelle Hurley, who I coached. They were teammates. Terry went to Hargrave and Rozelle went to ISA. And it just makes you better. You learn how to be a college guy before the switch goes on. So I saw a great vision in that. And I think D did too. At first, he had to look like, kind of unsure. He really didn't kind of know what that meant. And then Coach Gates explained it, and then he began to understand. And so as we left, I said, D, that would be a great opportunity to kind of go to prep school, get bigger, faster, stronger, learn all the stuff that you don't do in high school, which is primarily defense, get every rebound, fight the bigs. If you get a switch on a big as a guard, you know, don't take plays off, held accountable at a high level. Every play you held accountable, learn how to be a college guy. I think it'd be great. And so I'm just thankful to Coach Gates that he had that vision. And know what else I want to say about Coach Gates? He trusted his eyes. Coach Gates trusted his eyes. He did not rely on the writers in Ohio. He didn't rely on what other people felt. He didn't rely on who else offered. He relied on what he knew, what he saw, and what he believed Daniel could be. And I just really appreciate the fact that he afforded him that opportunity. And then Coach Robinson, Daniel has developed a good relationship with him. He checks in on him quite often while he's at Spire. And what for me, what attracted us to Coach Robinson is the first week he got the job. Now, to me, I mean, that's a busy time. You got to do interviews, you got to do appearances, you got to find your wife and children and your family a home, a school system. He did a home visit for about an hour and a half with Dee and my wife and I, and really recommitted Daniel to his vision. And that made me feel really good as a dad that he took time out of his busy schedule, got his job at Cleveland State. He got so much else to do. And he felt, it was important enough to come down and let Daniel know he still wanted him to maintain his commitment.
Yeah, it's a tough situation when you go from a head coach, especially one that you guys connected with as well as you did with Coach Gates, and now suddenly you got a new guy coming in, but it sounds like that transition was pretty smooth. Once you made the decision to go prep school, Daniel, why Spire, and did you look at any other prep schools, and just talk me through the decision-making process there?
Coach Gates, he asked if I wanted to stay close to home or if I wanted to leave. And I told him I wouldn't mind staying close to home. So they looked at a lot of prep schools. There's like one, I'm pretty sure it was one in Indiana.
Yeah, it's Bosco. Yeah, Bosco.
It was either Bosco or Spire. And I was like, Spire's close to home, so I'll do Spire. So I decided to go to Spire. Then I formed a relationship with Coach Sparrow here at Spire Academy and Coach Dooley and Coach Gonzalez. I just formed a relationship with them. They came to 2 of my games near the end of the season, and I committed, I'm pretty sure, after the season. After the season. So that's how it really happened.
What's your day-to-day experience like at Spire? Walk us through like a day, let's say when you have practice. What does your day look like?
So we have to get up at 6 a.m. every day, and we got a 6:45 a.m. lift. And then at around 7:45, we have like a passion project class, like something we want to do in college, like if we want to do sports management or psychology or like whatever topic or like whatever major you want to do in college. And then after that, we go to breakfast at 9 o'clock. And then sometimes we have a student counseling or mental skills meeting at 10:50. This lady named Dominique, she comes in. She used to be like the mental skills lady for like college teams, like college basketball teams and stuff like that, like Northwestern and Wisconsin and stuff like that. And then after that, we have lunch at 12, and then we have practice at 2 o'clock. Usually we go from 2 to 4, or depending, we might go to 2 to 6, depending on how hard we go. So sometimes like we go so hard we forget that we were in there like for that long. So sometimes we go over the time. So and then after that we have like recovery, and then we start the whole day over the next day.
Danny, how has it been for you being able to get out and see his games, obviously with your coaching schedule and your practices and your games and your job as a counselor? The fact that he's close, I'm sure, makes it a lot easier. But just talk about what this experience has been like from your perspective as a parent.
It has been so much fun watching D just play. I get to go just sit and watch and be a dad. And what I'm most proud about, I know everybody knows Danny can score. He's a bucket getter. He's been built to be a bucket getter. But Coach Sparrow is a defensive guru. Danny is guarding at an elite level. He does something called a POA, point of attack, which means can you guard your own stuff? And how many times do you require help? And he rates it every game. And he told me, because I asked him about it, he said, if you're in the 70s, you are a solid defender. You're pretty good. 80s mean you're very elite. And then I asked Danny, so where are you at? And he ranks like 80, 84 at one point in the season, which means he can guard pretty much anybody he's going against and not require a lot of help. And I've implemented that same strategy with my kids right now. We're doing that POA, and it's helping us a little bit with my young team. But just to see him be able to leave me, and, Daniel had some naysayers in terms of Ohio that still felt no matter what he accomplished, the All-State, the back-to-back LEL Player of the Year, second time All-League scorer, won the LEL as a senior, had a great state run as a sophomore. Senior year, we had a decent run. He still only did it because of me. So it feels really good to go out there and watch Daniel be one of the top guys. At one point, he was the leading scorer of the team, averaging 25 and 4, and I'm nowhere to be found. I'm here in Cleveland. He's out in Geneva. A whole new staff I never met, never knew. And they saw value in him, the same value that me and my staff saw in him. And so I just appreciate the fact that D is able to take what he learned in Shaker Heights, go out to Spire, and do the exact same thing he's doing in Shaker Heights that he's doing in Spire. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. And he's doing it on both ends. He's scoring, but he is guarding and rebounding, and he can guard bigs without asking for help, which I love it.
Daniel, what do you think's been the best part of the development of your game being at Spire? Is there a particular aspect of the game that you feel like you've really stepped up being there, and just what have you worked on during your time at Spire?
I'll say being more mature in my game. I'd probably say, like, in high school, I would take, like, sometimes 4 shots. Like, now I know when, because I have other, like, really, really, like, good, talented players around me, like, more talented players around me. So I don't have to do as much. So now I can just focus on knowing when to shoot, knowing what's the right shot. So I'll probably say that, and then just being an overall good all-around player now, just being more mature in that aspect and just always staying poised. I've never been riled up for real. I always stayed even, like at one level. I stay level-headed, so I'll probably say just more poised and knowing what's the best shot. And I feel like I got better on defense. Like, I've always been really good at defense, but I've been taking it way more serious since I got to Spire. Because if you don't play defense here, you're not going to play. And that's
Welcome to college basketball.
So this was the best thing that happened to me, because, like, we're learning the details, like the minute details of being a basketball player. Like, so when we go to college, we'll already have our foot in the door at a chance of getting a starting spot and playing right away as a freshman, because our coach told us, I think only, what's the percentages? Probably like 3% of freshmen play in college basketball right now, like important minutes. So I'm pretty sure he was telling us just focus on the details all the time. So he's just getting us ready for college.
How beneficial has it been to be able to focus on basketball for a lot more of your day than obviously you had the opportunity to do in high school? You're talking about being able to include weight training in your day and the mental prep and just all the things that you guys are doing there. How have you taken to that? How have you enjoyed that piece of it?
I've enjoyed it a lot. It's amazing that we have all day to just get better at our game, just get a lot of shots up and just get better each and every day. Because our coach told us, he was like, this is probably almost the only time you'll ever have this much time in your hands from the next 4 years when you're in college. Like, we have like 24 hours really in the whole day to just do whatever we want in basketball, because he was like, in college you don't have to go to class, got weightlifting, then you have to go to meetings and stuff, then you have to come back for practice, then you have to go back to a night class. Like, it won't be as much time that we have in our hands that we have now. So just using the most of our time here that we have left to get ready for college.
What have you seen, Danny, as far as the biggest jump in Daniel's game since he's been at Spire?
Defense, guard on the ball defense, off the ball defense. What I love the most is they strong switch everything. And when I first went to go see him play, I'm like, holy smokes, he got switched into a big. When they gonna switch back? And I saw him saying, "No, I'm good. I don't need it. I'm good. And he's fighting and getting around and not getting posted up and actually pushing the post out further on the wing. I'm like, good gracious, where's that at in high school? You know what I mean? So I loved it. It's the defense for me. Of course, he can score, shoot threes, get to the rim, get to free throw line. But I was just in awe of his defense. And like he said, I remember one time, and I got to see him play quite a bit. I haven't missed that many tournaments. I've gotten to see him play quite a bit. And I can't remember which team it was, and he was on fire. He had like 24 points in the first half. And I'm using the bathroom, and me and the coach coming out together, or it might have been after the game. I think it was halftime. And we just start talking real quick before he went back out. And he said, your son earned the right to shoot the ball that many times and score in the first half. Because if he don't play defense, coach, he will not be shooting that basketball. And I just love it, man. I mean, if you don't play defense, man, you are not shooting that basketball. You are not. And so the level of accountability is good, you know what I mean? And just seeing that he can take hard coaching from someone else besides Coach Young.
For sure.
It's been great because I always wonder, how is he going to respond? He's been with me for 4 years in the AAU. How is he going to respond to somebody else? And he's been doing great. Great.
Daniel, what are you looking forward to next year at Cleveland State when you start thinking about what your college experience can be like? What are you most looking forward to?
I'll probably say just the first day of practice, just making our first impression. Our coach said you only get one time to make your first impression when you step in college, so make it your best. Because if you have a bad impression, you might be stuck on that bench for a while. So just making my first impression.
Danny, what advice have you given him kind of it's going to be here before you guys know it, but what advice have you given him looking ahead to next year?
I think I'm telling him right now, savor the moment in terms of he got 17, 18, 20 games left. Savor the moment, enjoy it. Like he just said, he got 24 hours in the day, maximize it. You've been blessed with a great opportunity to be at Spire and focus on your game. Take the lessons and the challenges that he learned at Spire. And he learned a lot because the culture hit him pretty tough early on. And he was able to kind of bounce back and kind of matriculate upstream to being a major contributor. And so take those lessons from Spire, from Shaker to Cleveland State. And I'm glad that his coach is telling him that, because I was going to tell him that too. Make that first impression. You know, sometimes kids go in there and say, oh, come kind of feel things out. I'm going to kind of lay chill and kind of sit back and see how I feel. And that's not how you're supposed to go about it. You know, you're supposed to go in there and make that good first impression. So I'm glad he's being coached and guided with that process.
Danny, thinking back over your lifetime, do you have any memories of Cleveland State basketball yourself, going to watch games?
Absolutely. I always heard about the Mackey era, but I didn't see it. But I went to a lot of games when, what's his name, D, played with Bron? He's in the Hall of Fame there at Cleveland State. Norris Cole. That's it. Norris Cole. I went to a lot of Norris Cole games because I used to take my team to a lot of their camps when Coach Gary Waters was there, and Jermaine Kimbrough, who played for Shaker, was assistant coach, and now he's at Arizona State. So I always supported the program, and I just, really respected Norris Cole because his plight was similar to D's, not a whole bunch of offers, but he made the best of the one he had, and look where he's at now. So I'm hoping Danny can follow that trajectory and just make the best out of Cleveland State and work his tail off and let the chips fall where they may,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cleveland State, my dad growing up was a professor at Cleveland State. So I spent a lot of time going down to Cleveland State games. I can go back even earlier than the Kevin Mackey era. Ray Derringer was the coach before Kevin Mackey. That was the Franklin Edwards and Lee Reed teams. And then obviously you had the Kevin Mackey with Mouse McFadden and Kenny Robertson and Clinton Smith and Clinton Ramsey and Eric Mudd. And, man, you can just keep going on and on. But I spent a lot of time at that point. It was in Woodling Gym, and then they used to play some games over at Public Hall too. And I remember going down there, and me and my little sister, you had this big cavernous Public Hall where they had the floor, they'd bring in a portable floor, and then they had all this area where like the stage would be. And I remember me and my sister running around and just, acting crazy and eating our popcorn or whatever. So I kind of grew up with Cleveland State basketball. So I always love when you see them having success, because I think it'd be great for the city to be able to really bring that program back to life. And, that time with Kevin Mackey was just incredibly special. And it's a shame that they weren't kind of able to capitalize on it and keep it at that level, which obviously as a mid-major, it's tough to do that, to have that go year after year after year. But man, when Cleveland State basketball is good, it's definitely fun for the city.
It is fun for the city. Absolutely. Totally agree.
All right. I want to end here, guys, with the final question for each of you. When you look back on the totality of the basketball relationship, the father-son relationship, if you can boil it down to the most important piece of advice. So Daniel, for a player who plays for their dad, whether that's an AAU or high school, what's a piece of advice that you would give to a player who plays for their father? And then Danny, I'll flip that question over to you once Daniel answers.
I'll say just work hard and don't think what anybody says, because they're going to talk regardless, even if you're really, really good. They're just going to say, oh, he's only doing this because his dad's the coach. So just don't really think about that. Just play like if you had a different, like if your coach wasn't your dad. So just have fun with it because it goes by quick, and just listen to what your dad say, because I know sometimes the sons don't want to listen to what the dad just because they know what they're saying. So have fun with it, and then just treasure it while you can, because when it goes by, you be like, dang, I miss playing for my dad. It was actually kind of fun. So I'll just say enjoy it.
That's so true, man. Thinking about it going fast, I think that's a great piece of advice. It's a great perspective that I think sometimes when we're young, we don't necessarily realize. I know your dad and I know how fast it goes. So I'm glad to hear you saying that realizing that it goes fast and appreciating it, because as you get older, man, the years go even faster. So I completely relate to what you're saying. Danny, what about you?
I totally agree with Danny in terms of please enjoy it, because it's a blur and it goes very fast. Enjoy all the wonderful lasting memories. Enjoy the challenges, but most importantly, enjoy the fun and the positive things that come out of it. Like the sophomore season where Danny was able to contribute to the team and help the team get to the regional final before the shutdown. And then a great memory was his last year where, Shaker Heights had not won the league since Issa Ahmad 2015. And I walk out there in the hallway where we have all the championships. And the last one we won was 2015. And now to say we got another one in 2022, and Danny was a catalyst for that happening. It feels really good to know that he left his mark on the program as one of the greats, in terms of being on the wall for all Ohio and all that. So enjoy it, have fun with it, hang on to the memories. And then the last thing I'll say is once the games are over and practice is over, try your very, very best to leave basketball at the gym and just be dad. I know it's hard. Like Danny said, I would be tough on the car rides home, but I think I got a little bit better as time went on with that. His junior, senior year, I think I got a little bit better with that. Maybe I didn't. But I would say to dads that are coaching their sons, try to let it go and be dad until the next day you're back in the gym.
Gentlemen, that's well said. Great advice from both of you. Before we get out, I want to give you a chance to share how people can follow you, connect with you, whether you want to share your social media accounts, email, and then after you do that, I'll jump back in and wrap things up.
You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel Young with 2 underscores at the end. And then on Instagram, you can follow me at Daniel K. Young with an underscore.
Perfect. Danny?
And for me, my Twitter is at dyoung42. And then my email, if you want to get in contact with me, hdannyyoung42@gmail.com.
I wish you guys the best of luck for the rest of your seasons. And obviously, Daniel, wish you continued success as you continue on in your career at Cleveland State. Certainly be paying attention to what you're doing and following you. Danny, wish you luck for the rest of your season there at Shaker. And hopefully you guys can get hot and make a little tournament run. And I thank you for your time. This is a lot of fun. First father-son. Well, no, I take that back. We did this is the second father-son episode we did, but the last one we did was with 2 guys who were coaching together as a father and son. So maybe 20 years from now, we'll have you guys back on as a father-son coaching duo. But
that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Nonetheless, I want to thank you guys for your time. Truly appreciate it. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. Your first impression is everything when applying for a new coaching job. A professional coaching portfolio is the tool that highlights your coaching achievements and philosophies, and most of all, helps separate you and your abilities from the other applicants. The Coaching Portfolio Guide is an instructional membership-based website that helps you develop a personalized portfolio. Each section of the Portfolio Guide provides detailed instructions on how to organize your portfolio in a professional manner. The guide also provides sample documents for each section of your portfolio that you can copy, modify, and add to your personal portfolio. As a Hoopheads Pod listener, you can get your Coaching Portfolio Guide for just $25. Visit coachingportfolioguide.com/hoopheads to learn more.
Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.